Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I have my friend back with me. Okay, so the first, oh my gosh, second episode of the rebrand last summer, Francesca, you were with me, and I have to, so before I like properly introduce you, I have to tell our backstory. So when you recorded with me in the summer, that was
Mhm.
our like, hey, we've met mutually through this coaching program. You and I kind of are doing something similar. Will you record an episode with me? Fast forward months, you and I are incredibly close friends now, and I love it. So you are the person that I have Marco Polo videoed with every day
Mhm.
since like, what was it? Didn't we
It's
say it
like
was
February.
February? February, it was February 29th because it was our
Yeah.
leap day crazy.
Yeah.
And you and I have become amazing friends. I'm so thankful for your friendship. I love you so much. And so you're
Mhm.
in Toronto and I'm in North Texas. So let me properly introduce you now. So you are a
Yeah.
relationship coach and you work with, well, I'm going to actually let you describe what you work with, but it's
Sure.
mostly it's women in relationships. But tell us a little bit about what you do, and
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. I agree. I When I first met you in the group coaching program and we had that first podcast episode, I was like, I need to be friends with this person. Like, she's as quirky and funny as silly as I am and
Yeah.
can talk for hours, and I need someone like
Oh
that in
yeah.
my life. So, similar. So yeah, back to me. What I do is I help women create meaningful relationships. So what that means is really helping empower them and giving them the skills and tools to be able to communicate their needs, feel confident enough, and have enough self-worth to believe that they're deserving of getting their needs met, being able to set boundaries, understanding what that looks like, understanding that it's actually super healthy to set boundaries. Um, and then just applying what I really like to help women do is like, let's learn a set of skills, emotional skills, let's call them, and then let's apply that to the different relationships in your lives. I actually had originally started out just helping women in their romantic relationships, but as I was working with them, I realized most of these women, the same issues they have in their romantic relationships, they have them in every single other relationship in their
Yep.
life. And so I thought, why stay so small and just pigeonhole myself and helping them with that? Let's actually get to like the core of like the insecurities and the wounds and learn those skills so that not only they can have a happy romantic relationship, but they can have amazing friendships. They can have a healthy relationship with their family, whatever that looks like, if that's possible. But really, let's start from her, because as you know, as well as I do, the only person that we can control is ourselves. And so, since we can't control anyone else, unfortunately,
Mm.
let's just focus on ourselves and allow all the change that we do in personally manifest and reflect back on the relationships in our lives.
Yes. And I love that so much, especially I think as it's grown and as you've kind of shifted to working with women in all relationships. I love it because I think you're absolutely right. Like the way we carry ourselves, the way we present ourselves, it really affects the way we interact with every person and every meaningful person in our lives, even
Yeah.
actually strangers. Like I think that we can be the way we learn to be confident within ourselves and confident in who we are and the ability to kind of carry ourselves in a way that presents us as confident, right? That makes all the difference in the world. It kind of shows people how to treat you. You know, we teach people how to treat us. And I think that you have really worked with the work that you're doing with women has made such a difference in such a fast time, like just because you and I talk every day. And I know
Yeah.
some of the stories that you've shared, obviously with confidentiality and all the things,
Yeah.
but like the quick, like little moments of confidence that these people are finding and how it helps them build on it and build on it and build on it. And
Yeah.
before you know it, they are able to completely reframe the way they view themselves and the way they view their relationship. And the reason that
Mhm.
I'm excited for us to do this together is because a lot of this can apply obviously to men, but it just looks different, right? But
Yeah.
where we what we find in a lot of couples, right? I'll do the couple part, is that if you are not showing up as a woman, if you're not
Mm-hmm.
presenting and showing up in a confident way in how you interact and how you communicate your emotions and how you communicate your needs, then
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really yield a good relationship, right?
Yeah.
And not just couples, like you said, with your mom, with your sister, with your boss, with your whoever, but
Yeah.
because that intimate relationship with your spouse is one of the most important relationships in our lives, if you can't communicate and not feel guilty for feeling what you feel and learn how to
Mm-hmm.
manage what you feel, then you're a hot mess. And you and I have both, this is going to be fun about this, is that we've both been the hot mess.
Oh yeah. Oh
Ugh.
yeah.
And we've
Oh yeah.
learned how to be less of a hot mess. I mean, I think I will always have hot mess aspects of me.
Moments, little
Yes,
glimpses
because
of it. Yeah.
I'm a sensitive, emotional person. But yeah, so we're gonna have fun. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna pitch your program. You're gonna tell
Okay.
us, Francesca,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna tell. We're going full in. Tell us how you help women, and then I'm gonna tell them how I help couples. Go.
Well, I actually came up with an even better explanation of my program yesterday, so I'm excited to share it.
Yay.
So, picture this. You're a woman in a relationship. You have friends, you have family, you have all that. You're in your relationship. You're having a hard time in your relationship. Who do you turn to? And you think, okay, who do I turn to? Maybe I have a therapist. Okay, so I turn to my therapist, but my therapist is only one person. Maybe I want different perspectives. And maybe I don't want to pay every time I want advice. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I don't, not for nothing, we're therapists, so I respect our profession, but as a human being, it's like maybe I don't want to pay $100 every time I want a piece of
Right.
advice, right? So that's fair. But you think, oh crap, like I've already vented to my mom a bunch of times. I've already vented to my friends a bunch of times. I don't want to air my dirty laundry um, to my friends because my friends are also friends with my partner. And so, I just don't want to like ruin my partner's reputation. I don't want my friends knowing all my personal business. So that's kind of the scenario. That's why I created a membership, which is actually just a community of women that are either single, looking to attract their ideal relationship, or in a relationship, looking to improve their relationship. And it's just a space where we get to hang out on a monthly basis. Once a month, we get to chat and I get to answer all your questions and you get to hear from other people and their experiences. There's a WhatsApp group where you get to ask questions every day and you get to learn from other people's questions. And it's super low cost because I really want to create like a community feel vibe for it. So that's called the Bold and Brave Truth Tellers membership. And so that's just a space where women can, again, starting from us and who we are as women and how we show up, let's become the brave woman that shares her truth. No matter how hard it is to share that truth, like being brave enough, like you were saying, to be able to share what you're feeling without feeling guilty about it and be able to ask for what you want, knowing that you might get rejected because that can always happen, but at least you know that you stood up for yourself and took care of yourself in the way that you're able to. And
Yeah.
then if that, add on to that, if you need more additional one-to-one support, because you're like, listen, community is great, but I need like a weekly check-in, I need like more support, then there's one-to-one services coaching with me that you can sign up for.
I love it. Okay, do you feel comfortable sharing the cost of your
Of
membership?
course. Yeah. So my Bold and Brave Truth Tellers membership is $24 a month. And
Love
then
it.
one-to-one coaching with me is $299 a month.
Oh, I love that. And okay, so let's talk membership real quick. So you and I have both pivoted. We both started with a coaching program where it was a very specific high ticket. It cost thousands of dollars because that was what we learned. And then we realized that was a really crappy way of doing things. And we didn't like the program that we
Yeah.
signed up for, right? Full transparency. We learned a very expensive lesson
Yes.
that was not a good fit for emotional work. It was really good for business work. So
Yeah.
we have both pivoted where we're doing courses, and like I'm doing more of a course, you're doing more of a membership, and I'm doing a membership on a business thing that we can talk about another time. But what I love about it is, like you said, it's low investment, high reward. Women can get something every single day just from paying 24 bucks a month, right?
Yeah.
Right? Was it 24?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and all like they're getting it's popping up to them like you're making trainings and extra things that you're putting
Yeah.
out as bonuses,
Yeah.
and they're getting other people's experiences, learning through what they're going through, and also have an opportunity to share what they need. And that is like, that is what we need as women. Like if
Yeah.
I had had something like that when I was younger in my
Yeah.
marriage and had had the ability to just not be so in my head. And the point that you made about it resonates so much with me is about not wanting to air your dirty laundry, because you don't want to, like, every relationship has conflict no matter what
Hmm.
relationship it is. But if you tell people like, hey, I had a fight with my partner, my husband, my wife, whatever, about this, then that person is going to now have that in their mind about
Hmm.
your partner or about you.
100%.
And I love that there is this like external place for people to go and get this support without having to pay hundreds of dollars for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Because I mean, you know it better than I do. Then, it's just like really, really, really transforming a relationship, starting from your relationship with yourself. It takes a while. Like, it's not an overnight thing. I mean, for me, it took me years to get to where I am, and I still have lots to learn and grow.
Yeah.
But where I was before was, okay, yeah, I was going to my therapist, I was talking to my friends, but I felt so lonely because I didn't know if what I was going through in my relationship was normal. I didn't know if it was really bad or really good. I had no like reference points because maybe a lot of us women, depending on the culture that you're from, I come from a Latin culture where it's very patriarchal. So my reference points were really bad. Like I grew up in a family where a lot of women in my family, aunts, grandmothers, were like legitimately going through very abusive situations. And so for me, anything better than that was amazing. But like, what if my version of amazing actually wasn't amazing? I had no idea. And so this way you can kind of confront yourself with different people and get that support that sometimes we just don't really want to go and talk to our friends about because we maybe feel shame about
Yeah.
how our partner is treating us.
Right. No, absolutely. I love it. So then we'll pitch my program.
Yes, tell us about what
Do
you're
you know,
doing.
it's so interesting, Francesca, like when you and I started our coaching thing, like I think my initial cost is like $3,500 for blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I wouldn't even pay that.
Yeah.
So this is full transparency, right? So like what I've done is I've completely pivoted. And now what I did is I took the course. It's like 12-week course of like the step by step of how, kind of what you're talking about with like how to communicate, but it's a couple together doing it together.
Yeah,
And I just set it at like $97
I
full,
love
like
that.
just buy it, go do it. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I want it to reach more people. As a therapist and the couples that I work with, couples counseling is so hard for the couple.
Hmm.
It's months of and months of work, and it's like scratching at the surface every time. Like it's
Hmm.
such a hard process. And so what I did is I created this like, I don't want to hear your problems because that's just going to lead to you arguing, right? If
Yes.
you, the two of you are talking about it in here, like I want to know what's going on, but if we just get into the problems and all we're doing is focusing on the problems. And so what I did was I gave all the tips and the tools and the strategies that I wish couples would implement, because that's the stuff that makes a difference. And I put it in these video format trainings and I posted it for $97. And that's it.
I
That's the new
love that.
cost. So
I love that because it gives people the opportunity to like self-paced at home, watch it, reflect on it. And I think especially for the men that I've worked with, they need that privacy for the
mhm,
introspection. They don't really always want to be doing that with someone else there.
right.
And so if they can take the time to learn that before, do their little studies before, and then they show up to the session and you can actually support them in how to implement all of that
Yep.
instead of spending time. And listen, like we said before, therapy is very costly, right? So this is like a great way for them to learn the stuff and then they only have to spend time or money on sessions to actually implement the stuff
Right.
because that's really where people need help.
Yeah. Yes.
So cool.
Thank you. Okay, so this ties perfectly into our topic. And the reason I wanted to do our little pitch is because you and I are actually talking, like the things that we teach are the things that we're going to talk about today, which is
Yeah.
communication, specifically the healing work that comes after a disagreement or a conflict. So, we've talked before, I think even our first episode, we are talking about like how to speak and how to advocate for yourself and how to
Hmm.
overcome obstacles in communication. But the reality is like I said earlier, every relationship experiences conflict. Every couple goes through arguments and disagreements, and some of them can be ugly. Some of them can be straight up fights, right? Verbal
Hmm.
fights. Hopefully, nothing more than that. But
Hmm.
where what you and I were even talking about before we hit the record button is the theme that we've both experienced in our work with individuals and couples, when we talk to them about the fight that they had, or even just in our own personal experiences, when you get through that ugly argument or fight, the last thing you want to do is bring it back up. But the reality is, the only way to heal is to go back and really evaluate and figure out why that happened, what we could have done differently, and what we could do next time to not end up in that situation. So that, in a nutshell, is what you and I are going to focus on today, is the repair, how to do it, what, like, safe ways to go back without kind of like bringing it all back up in an ugly way. So start us off, like, get just thoughts. Start with thoughts on, like, what does that even mean to you?
Thoughts. First off, in order to even start the repair, it's choosing the right time and place, choosing the right setting, coming to your partner really, really, really with the intention to reconnect emotionally. So you're not coming to your partner with the intention of being like, this is how you hurt me, I was right. Listen, I've been that girl, like, I'm not, there's no judgment, but but like, like, hey, you hurt me and I'm right and you're wrong. No, like, you want to come back to the relationship. Hello, Dobby. You want to come back to the person when you have genuinely processed through the feelings, the anger, whatever it is that you felt. And sometimes that means, like, crying it out on your own, or like screaming it into a pillow, or calling a friend, or whatever you need to do. And then you come back to your person when you're really genuinely ready to not only say your part, but hear and listen to their part.
Yeah, so well said. Okay, and what I, sorry, here's another dog. When my husband went outside, and that means they have to come find another human, and that's me. So, one of the things that I really love about that is the timing, the setting, right? When, where, how. And for us, like, I know for me, it's I've got to get past the I feel so wronged and I feel so like mistreated, right? And when I was young, this was me. Thankfully, like, you and I have both grown and changed tremendously. But like, I'm thinking of that part of me and a lot of the couples I currently work with, when I would be so focused on how I was feeling, and all that mattered was that my feelings were hurt and I was upset and I was offended and I was whatever, right? Misunderstood, accused, whatever. And once I could calm down, and this is why we encourage people, like, try to walk away as soon as you can, like, try to end that fight as soon as you can, because when you're at that point where your emotions are so elevated, nothing good is coming out of that. You're just saying hurtful things because you want to feel better. And the only way to feel better is to win. And winning has the opposite goal in a relationship, right? When we're in a relationship, we don't ever want to be trying to win. We want to try to protect the relationship and nurture the relationship. And so for me, I learned how the benefit of calming down, how much clearer I was after I calmed down, and how, over time I learned to look at things from a different perspective, but that was much later, right? And so you and I are going to go through how to start at that, like, you're so emotionally charged, and how to get to where you're effectively talking. So what do you think is the main reason, or how does it play out in your opinion, about, like, when you have this initial eruption, like some disagreement, whatever?
Yeah.
What are some themes, and you and I can do this together, but what are some themes that go from trigger to we're gridlocked, arguing, fighting, and just trying to compete on who's right or wrong? What do you think?
I think there's so many themes to that. Like, there's so many reasons why people could get to that level. Like, sometimes, to be honest, I've seen both in my relationship and in others, like, arguments where you don't even remember why you're arguing anymore. And you're like, what? How did we get here? But you're there. But
Mhm.
the thing is, I think the whole point, and I love how you're describing it, is that whatever the context of the argument is, it's really about what then happens when you're in the argument and in the conversation. Because when it gets to a point where it becomes personal, so both people are triggered in some sort of way, and maybe one person's screaming or one person's trying to belittle the other or whatever it is, the context doesn't really matter that much anymore at that point. Like, one of the things that I've tried to implement with my partner is I say to him, if there's been a point where like I've crossed a line or he's crossed a line, and we both have like the list of things that we both don't do in a relationship, in an argument, right? So I have mine, he has his. And so it's like, if either one of us has crossed the line, we try and say like, wait, pause, slow down, let's reconnect. Like,
Yeah.
screw the context. Like, let's put the context on pause. The point is that we have lost that connection between the two of us. And so let's take a minute to reconnect, and then we can go back to the context. Where I totally agree with you that that you should just walk away is when you try and reconnect and one of you is just like hell bent on holding on to the argument and holding on to the context and fighting for whatever you think needs to be fought for. That's when hopefully one of you is able to say like, you know what? Love you so much. This conversation is going absolutely nowhere. I'm pausing just because I'm thinking about a recent moment in which I did this. It's just, the deja vu is coming up in my head. But this conversation is going nowhere. I love you so much. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to go, like, whatever it is. And I think if you're not used to doing that, it's a very, very difficult thing to do because the other person tends to feel like super abandoned, like you're quitting, like you don't care about how they feel. But if you're able to, oh gosh, let me not try and mix up too many concepts here, but if you start implementing that and you let your partner know why you're doing that,
Yeah.
sooner or later they're going to realize that actually taking that break, diffusing the situation, and then coming back when you're more relaxed is way more effective
Yeah.
than continuing to just battle each other.
Oh my gosh, I love oh my God, I can't even talk. Okay. So we're going to make that rule number 1, okay?
Yeah.
Decide together that that is the plan, right? And so whatever you want to implement as a couple, you will be more successful if you say, "Hey," even and I tell this people to individuals in counseling, I'm like, "Hey, go tell your partner, this is what I learned today. This is what I've decided that I want to start doing. It's going to be a little different, but I want you to know so that when I do it, you don't misunderstand me or that you
Exactly.
don't think that I'm walking away because I'm abandoning you, but like I know
Yeah.
myself enough to know that when I get to this point, all I want to do is fight. And
Yeah.
I'm working on my personal boundaries with myself. Like, I don't want to be in that place. I don't want to do those things. I feel so bad about myself or I feel so out of
Mhm.
control. So here's my new plan. So what I love about what you said is that you gave an example of committing together to a different model or a different approach to communication in hard times. So being able to say, "Hey, husband, wife, partner, this is our pattern." And I think what we need to do moving forward is know ourselves, know our limits. When I get to this point, here's where I know I need to stop. What's yours? So I'm not going to
Yeah.
speak for you. I'm not going to say when you do this, you need to stop. No, here's where I know I become crazy and I become really ugly to you.
Mhm.
My goal is to watch out for that, learn
Mhm.
when I hit that, notice it in myself, and then that's when I either remove myself or I say, "Can we please stop? This isn't doing well." Here, what's the word we're going to use? What's our safe word, so to speak? Am I going to
Mhm.
say, pickle? And when I say pickle, that's our sign to completely stop talking. And
Mhm.
how do we want to reconnect? Now, you're going to
Yeah.
give me your limit. What do you think is your line? When you get to that point, you need to say pickle. And now
Yeah.
we're stopping. And then the next step is, so step 1 is prepare ahead of time, make a plan. Step
Yeah.
number 2 is, what is the strategy we're going to implement to reconnect? And I love that you do that. Like, okay, so walk
Mhm.
us through some examples of what does reconnecting in that kind of heightened situation look like?
Mhm. So, I think it's really about reconnecting when it's no longer so heightened. And
Mm-hmm.
then again, you're still not ready to talk about the context of the argument until you genuinely feel, I mean, you feel it in your body, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this takes a little bit of work to learn how to connect to our feelings, but if you're able to feel your feelings in your body, you're able to legitimately feel that openness, like in your stomach, in your chest, in your heart center. You feel an openness to your partner. You feel a desire to hold their hand, to cuddle, to sit next to them. So that's when you're really feeling reconnected, right? We all have like our version of that. And so if you do not feel that reconnection to them, you're still not ready to talk about the context of the argument, whatever the context was, finances, kids management, time scheduling, whatever the
Yeah.
context was. Just focus on reconnecting. So I love how you said it, how like when you come to the conversation, you don't immediately come accusing the other partner of what they did wrong. You come taking responsibility for what you did. So I
Mm-hmm.
often like to come back to a conversation like that, just owning my shit. I hope I can
Mm-hmm.
curse on your
Yes, ma'am.
podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But just like owning my shit. Listen, I'm really sorry. I tend to yell when I get angry, right? So listen, I'm really sorry that I yelled. I tend to interrupt when I get angry. I tend to not let people speak. I just talk over them because I don't really want to hear what they have to say, to be honest with you. So I just want to be right
Honest.
and I don't
Yeah, I
want to
love
listen
it.
to anything you have to say. So I come back and I say, listen, I'm sorry I didn't give you a chance to speak. I'm sorry that I yelled. I'm sorry that, whatever. And it's not with the intent of like placating myself and like begging for your forgiveness. It's just acknowledging that most likely there's behaviors that I did that were hurtful to you.
Mm-hmm.
If I in some way criticize my partner or, put them down, again, that's something that I want to say, hey, listen, I'm really sorry that I did this. And then the next step is typically like, hopefully they do their part. But if they don't, because some people don't, they don't know to, then that's an invitation for you to say, like, listen, you can even, actually, I'm going to take a step back. You can take it in a few different directions. You can either tell the person, depending if they're willing to, able to receive it, this is where some of the things that you did were hurtful towards me, and see what their response is. Or you can say, listen, I really didn't like how that conversation went. Are you open to talking about the things that you or I did and what that felt like, whether it was hurtful or not? What's a game plan strategy that we can come up with for the future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would be
Okay. I love it. I'm gonna take us. I think I took us out of order. Let me go back. So if in the pre-work, right? So before we argue, we want to do the step one of how are we going to stop ourselves? Ooh, hold on. My dog has got my headphones. How are we gonna handle our fights differently, right? What is the plan that we're both gonna agree on? Here's my our safe word, whatever. And
yeah.
then step two, I think, is identify. So there's a connection in the moment, and then there's a reconnection afterwards, right? So what you were saying is stop the argument. If you can notice that you've hit that point, being able to
Yeah.
stop the argument and just say, like you were saying, you feel that openness in your heart. So maybe what you also almost have to do is mid-argument, just say, okay, like this is so weird, but like, just can I just sit next to you for a second and we can just quietly, like, let's just sit next to each other quietly, or let me hold your hand for a second, or can I just have a hug? Because
Yeah.
I'm like really, really worked up right now. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm fighting with you. And all I want you to do is just accept me and acknowledge me or whatever. Now, if you
Mm.
know yourself and you cannot do that, when you're in a fight, you're like, do not want to be touched. I don't want you
Mm-hmm.
near me. Then that's
Mm-hmm.
part of the plan is
Yeah.
when we're talking about how do we want to handle ourselves differently in an argument and we have our safe word and such, one of the things that I want you to know about me is that I need physical affection like I would like to be comforted, or I need to not be touched at all.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be able to connect with you. I'm not going to
Yeah.
be able to stop and connect. So I do need to be able to walk away. So when I hit my point where I now know I'm just being ugly or I'm too
Mm-hmm.
hurt, my self care is going to be to walk away. Well, what happens when you feel abandoned by that? What
Mm-hmm.
are we going to do? How are we going to handle that? Because so many of the fights that couples experience is because they have a different way of handling, like bringing it down, right? You can't,
Yeah.
it's very hard to just stop it. We have to de-escalate, but when you cannot de-escalate, then your goal does need to be to just stop it. It just needs to
Yeah.
be a timeout, go your separate ways, work, like calm down, and then we go to kind of what you were saying is, when
Yeah.
does that need to happen? Do we need to come back together in 30 minutes, in an hour,
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow? Like, how do we know that we're
Mm-hmm.
ready to reconnect? So go with what you were saying. Like, what is that? What do we teach men, women about how to learn what your body is telling you?
Mm-hmm. Oh, girl, that's a whole.
Do the Cliff's notes, the non, we're not gonna, yeah,
Um, how
it's
to
hard.
learn what your body is telling you. In which of these three contexts? In the argument, the during the
The,
separation, or the repair?
ooh, good question. Okay, so let's do a quick one on each one. So
Okay.
mid-argument, okay, even let's just say, yeah, let's say you find yourself in an argument. How do
Okay.
you
So
know that you need to walk
argument,
away?
I would say it requires for you to get really, really, really honest with yourself. What I mean by that is when we feel angry and we act in a certain way that we know is hurtful, we easily justify that because we're like, well, I'm right. So it's okay that I, you know, said whatever I said or did whatever I did because I'm upset or I'm blaming the other person. So I'm like, well, he did this to me, so it's okay that I'm doing. So we get lost in all those like justifications and rationalizations and everything. So I think it's really about getting truly honest with yourself and saying, okay, yeah, they did that, they did whatever they did, but where's my part in this? And so when you're able to, I love when you were saying earlier, is like the boundaries with myself, right? Because really, when I choose to take a deep breath and go quiet, because I'm Dominican, so I'm loud. So when I choose to take a deep breath and go quiet, that's a boundary that I'm setting with myself so that I don't let all the bubbled up anger and pent up frustration spill onto my partner. For my partner, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I know the things that he does when he's angry. But like, for example, he tends to be someone that he wants you to feel the pain that he's feeling, right? That's his way of like getting back. And so he'll say cruel things to try and get you to feel that. And so for him, it's like, okay, actually, he's told me this, so I can say that. He knows that he needs to go quiet so that he can filter through the thoughts in his brain. And I do this as well when I'm angry. It's like I'm filtering through and I'm like, the thoughts come up and I listen to the thoughts and I hear them and I'm like, that's mean, that's mean, that's mean, that's mean. Oh, that's a nice one. Okay, we can say that one. But
Yeah.
it's like you literally have to do that filtering through. And the
Mm.
thing is that in order to filter through, like that's why when you said like, let's talk about feeling your feelings, I'm like, that's a whole other conversation because in order for me to hear my thoughts, I have to breathe. I have to regulate my nervous system. I have to calm myself down. I have to be mindful. I have to learn to recognize that my thoughts are just thoughts. They're not the reality of the situation all the time.
Yes, ma'am. I love it. And so then basically the easy answer to the when to go back into a conversation, because we're going to focus now on that other part of the repair. Because the first part of the repair is what's your plan? How are you going to do this differently? Because we can't repair during. So what we're going to do is put safeguards so that when we find ourselves in that situation again, where there's like a plan of how to try not to let it go crazy, right? Then the second part of the repair is what we're going to talk about now, which is when you've managed to separate and you've
Mm-hmm.
given yourself enough time, learning, sometimes you just need a 30-minute break and
Yeah.
sometimes you need to sleep on it.
Yeah.
So learning within yourself, when am I ready? Now, if your partner is ready before you, then having
Mm,
again, a plan ahead of time that, hey, if you're ready before me or if I'm ready before you, we have to allow the other person the freedom to say, I'm not ready yet. Can I
yeah.
please have until tomorrow morning, or can I just go take a shower or go for a walk and then I can talk
Yeah.
it out, right? So now when we're ready, knowing what our body feels like essentially is when you are no longer just waiting for your turn to talk so that
Mm,
you can
mm,
say, all the things they did wrong. If you're still trying to say all the things you did wrong, you probably need to go write that out somewhere and get it out of your system. Like, you're still holding on to this emotional kind of buildup. Go journal it out, write it out, type it out, say it out loud. I don't know, whatever, into
Yeah.
on your own, get it out. And
Yeah.
then when you're in a place where you're like, I'm ready to listen and I'm ready
Mm-hmm.
to try and heal, repair, to where we're okay again. I want us to be okay, which means I want to learn to respect them and I want them to respect me. Like, I want us to feel like we've each apologized for our part, where I'm ready to say sorry for the things I said. Even if I said one wrong thing and he or she said 17 wrong things,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
still going in ready to say I'm sorry for what I did. And I'm going to go through that. And I'm going to listen and I'm going to have grace and I'm going to have an open heart, because the goal is not to be right and or wrong. It's to, how do we get better and be okay moving on?
Yeah.
Your turn.
I agree with all of that. I love that. Um, I want to add like a little side tangent to that, just to acknowledge that sometimes I find there's a couple I'm working with right now that I see this in them, that she needs more time to relax, to process, to really come back to the conversation. He wants to resolve it immediately, and he says that he's ready to resolve it, but he's really not, in the sense that he shows up and he just wants to like quick fix the thing, right? But then when she's like, okay, let's talk about how I felt, how you felt, he's like, no, I don't, like, let's just resolve the context of the
Yeah.
conversation. Whether it's like, how are we going to manage, actually, yeah, this is a good one. Is like, how are we going to manage the scheduling for our jobs and the kid and the grandparents and babysitter and all those things? He's like, I just want to do that. And she's like, no, I'm still hurt about how you talked to me yesterday. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, whatever, like, let's fix the problem. And she's like, no, you're not understanding.
Yeah.
That problem can't get resolved until you and I are resolved. So it's really challenging because sometimes you have someone who's maybe a little bit more anxious and wants to just doesn't want to sit with the discomfort of the relationship momentarily not being okay.
Yep.
And that's a really tough one because the person that is a little bit more anxious thinks that when they resolve the problem, they're good again. But it's kind of like a false illusion, false sense of control. And it's really challenging for that person to respect the fact that, let's say, person A needs like 3 hours of time, because the anxious person actually has no idea how to manage the anxiety that they feel. So there's like a lot to all of this.
Mm.
Like when it comes to couples work, and I love that you do couples work. I don't do couples work. I just help the woman individually. Because couples work is challenging because it's two people coming together, and both of these people um, need to get to a level where they have enough emotional maturity to manage themselves to then come together. Anyway, went off on a whole
Yeah.
tangent there,
Oh my
but
gosh. No, no, no. That was actually amazing, because I was thinking about, as you were saying that, I was really thinking about the reality of an argument in every couple. I think
yeah,
the issue is like, whatever the point of disagreement is, tends to be the smallest part. The
yeah,
way we handle it, the way we talk to each other, is eventually what sparks a conflict, right? And so if
yeah,
I come to you and I say, why didn't you do this? The thing you didn't do was probably super small. Why didn't you load the dishwasher? Okay, who
yeah,
cares? It's small, load it, move on.
yeah.
But why did you come at me like that is the
Mm-hmm,
problem. Why
mm-hmm.
didn't you just say, hey, I asked you to do this, it didn't get done? Or, hey, this didn't happen according to schedule. Can we talk about it? Or, hey, we need to reevaluate the way we divide our stuff. Whatever. Like, there's so many ways you can do it. But if you come at me with an accusatory tone, now I have a problem with that. And guess what I'm going to
Yeah,
do? I'm going to snap right back at you, because
yeah,
uh, that's rude, right? And so in a perfect world, I would say, can you try that again, please? That was really rude. And then we
mm-hmm,
would fix it and we would move on. But human
mm-hmm.
nature is, if you snap at me, I'm snapping at you, and now we're turning this into an ugly argument about everything but the initial problem. And
Yeah.
so the repair, really, to your point, is not about the cause of the conflict or the cause of the whatever the initial issue. It's about
Yeah.
human nature, the part about how we treat each other, how we talk to each other,
Mhm.
and sometimes the permission that we give ourselves to be rude, you know?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that was really, I think, yeah, that's the more complicated part, which is why I think when we need to know when to step away and come back, essentially what we're doing is I'm calming down enough. I'm not upset enough. So now I can come to you and say, um, it really bothered me when you came to me and you said that, the way that
Yeah.
you said it. I don't
Yeah.
mind you asking me or telling me something about our chore. I don't
Mhm.
like it when you come to me with that tone. It makes me feel small. It makes me feel like you're in charge and I'm a subordinate, you
Right.
know?
And then the
Then we
other
can talk.
person, exactly. And then the other person that came to you like that, their responsibility is to come back and say, listen, I am upset about the fact that you didn't load the dishwasher, but I should have said it in a calmer tone. I'm sorry that I was aggressive in the way that I came at you. And then the reason why, I'll just do a little like side note in between to give
Yeah.
some context, but the reason why you take the time to calm down is to get to the level of introspection where you can understand why it is that you came at your partner like that.
Yep.
So that then when you come back in the conversation, you're not just saying, like, a really, really, really beautiful healing conversation isn't just when you say, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that, good.
Right.
That's like a little, yeah, happy. We love that. But a real healing, beautiful conversation is when you say, I'm really sorry that I came at you like that. I was thinking about it, and the reason I realized that the reason I came at you like that was because I feel like I'm not cared for when it comes to the household chores, is because I've actually realized that there's a bigger issue here, which is that we don't have a good division of labor when it comes to household chores. And if we really want to go even deeper, as a woman, I'll just add this. I say, I realized that my anger wasn't even against you. My anger is deeper sense of resentment that I have because I grew up in a household where my mom had to do the household chores and my dad didn't do anything, and I lived in a society where that was okay, and I realized that this is a deep rooted resentment that I have and I need to work on, and I'm sorry that I projected all of that on you.
Oh,
And
girl.
then the other
Yeah.
person gets to be like, oh, her anger, yeah, it had a little bit to do with me, but it really didn't have that much to do with me. Like, and then the other person, once the blame is off them, they feel a little bit lighter and they can be like, damn, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that that's how you grew up. I had no idea that you felt all this, pressure on your back about taking care of the household. Like, how can I alleviate that for you? How can
Hmm.
we come up with a structural plan together instead of just like a quick fix of like the dishwasher? Because that's not really the problem here, you
Yes,
know?
absolutely. And then again, and it branches off into another beautiful conversation, which is how are we going to handle that moving forward? So,
Mhm.
and there's several aspects to that. It's this talk about like, I didn't know that that's how you felt. Can
Mm.
you tell me more about what your expectations are of me and what is it that I could be doing? And that gives that other person a chance to say, okay, I can do that. Or, but that's not how I like to do things. So it doesn't seem fair to me that you want me to load the dishwasher in your time when I've just come back from a day of work or I was out with the kids and now I'm
Yeah.
home and I don't want to do that as soon as I come home. I want to do this. So, what is if the goal is the dishwasher and you want me to do it on this day, or, that's my responsibility. I
Yeah.
would like us to have a conversation about what the expectation is about when that'll be done and who's really like, are we saying you're in charge and you're going to delegate tasks to me? And some people might be totally fine with that. Like, just tell me
Yeah.
what I need to do. And other people are like, no, if I know I need to do that, then let me do it. As long as like my commitment it is it'll be done before 7 p.m. If you don't like that, then we need to have a conversation about a different plan. And the other thing
Exactly.
that needs to happen is person A that came at it hard with all their resentment needs to say,
Yeah.
I need to work on a different way to communicate that I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I need to come to you, like, what would be a way that's safe for me to do that? Like, is it okay if I come to you and say, hey, I just feel a little anxious, or I feel like I have too much on my plate today. Can you take this off my plate? And some people struggle with that because they're like, well, I don't want to, I just want you to know. Well, that's a problem. We're gonna have a talk about that, right? So
Yeah.
there's so many ways to grow from
So
this
many
and to
ways.
approach. But what you and I are trying, like the point we're trying to get to is stop living in this cycle of insanity where you're just repeating the same bad habits and conflict and not
Mhm.
recognizing that there is a it's so important to come together when everyone's calm and say, can we go out to eat where we're going to behave ourselves in public and have a conversation about
Yeah.
why we're handling these things wrong? And so many, kind of back to what you and I said at the beginning, so many people are like, uh, God, we just couldn't wait to get over that. I don't want to open it back up again. But we're
Yeah.
not saying go fight. We're saying
No.
use all the strategies that you're learning, go get more support from people like Francesca, learn how to talk, and go back and implement.
Yeah.
So, it's
Vice
a whole
versa. I
thing.
was gonna say go sign up for Navarrete's course so that you can get all the skills. Because it really is, I think like the whole summary of this beautiful conversation that you and I are having today is we don't, like you said, we don't want you to go back and fight. We want you to go back together and like put put on a mindset that is me and my partner are a team and we're going to work together to tackle this together. And at the same time, we acknowledge that we're people with wounds and, behaviors and whatever it is. And so we're going to work together to figure out what are the obstacles that we're creating for ourselves, and how can we come up with better strategies to facilitate our ability to talk about hard things? Because I was saying this to actually, this is such a funny conversation we're having right now because I just implemented all of this yesterday with my partner, is that at the end of the day, you're in a partnership. You want to be together. You want to have the foundations of communication in order to build what you need to build together, whether it's finances, whether it's family, whether it's whatever it is. And the thing is, what I've noticed, and I'm still very young and I don't have that many responsibilities. Like I don't have kids, I don't own a home, I don't, all those things. But what I've noticed is that as time passes, life just gets more and more complex and complicated, and there's different factors and there's different responsibilities and there's different things to worry about. And so if you don't have like a foundation of communication, how are you going to manage all of those new factors in your life? It's just going to become even harder. And then it gets to the point, because you've seen this, I know you have, where people just don't talk about things. They're like, no, we just don't go there. And it's just like a silent mountain of like stress building in the home.
Yep, 100%. And then when something does come up that triggers it, it's such a huge explosion
Yeah.
when it's really not. Like and then it's so hard to repair it at that point. But I'm mindful of our time, friend. I
Yes.
know that we both have things that we need to go do, but
Yeah.
I really love that point that you made, which is teamwork. Like, and this is kind of the bottom line is increasing self-awareness throughout everything. Like your focus has to be yourself. And what I mean by that is be very, very aware of what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're showing up. Because if your focus is on just getting what you need, then you're not focusing on your role. You're not focusing on how are you treating your partner. You're just focusing on what is my partner doing for me. And in a perfect, well, it's not perfect world, in a cultivated, healthy relationship, you and your spouse are saying, I want to work better at being a good partner to you. And then the other
Mm-hmm.
person would say the same. And you would say, here's what I know I need to do. I need to work on being more respectful in the way I communicate, being more, giving empathy when you're going through something hard, not just trying to one up you because I'm also going through something hard. Like, so if you're aware of yourself and you're aware of who you are in this relationship. And like you said, I love that, like, I love what you said about like, that's rude, that's rude, that's rude. Okay, that one's okay. Like, what a beautiful vision for me of like literally scrolling through your thoughts because they're happening so fast, but like
Yeah.
scrolling through all the options of your possible responses and be like, oh, but pick that one, click, and then you say it out loud. Like, it's such a fun description. So I love that you said that. But it's being intentional in the way that you talk. And that's with everyone, if you're, and this is I'll end with this. I hear so many times couples or individuals saying, if my spouse would just talk to me the way that they talk to their coworkers, we wouldn't have
Mm.
a problem. They're so respectful at work. They're so encouraging of their team and they're such great leaders or whatever. And then they come home to me and then they just are so irritated with our children and me and we just get like
The
the
worst.
leftovers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, team all the way. I love it. All right, friend. Thank you so much for doing this with
Thank
me.
you.
We will put the links also to the membership, and all the things. And
Mhm.
I really love this. So we just need to, I can't believe we waited this long to do another episode. So let's just keep thinking. I think that we click, girl. We're just gonna have to do more. Let's just keep it going. But thank you for everything. I hope that we can schedule one soon. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
I
girl.
agree.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.